O labing makagagahom nga amay namon sa langit, mahinuklugon nga laon nga tagtugas ang langit, hangin, kalayo, tubig kag duta. O labing makagagahom ining imo nga amay namon sa langit, kabay ining pag-ampo, mahinuklugon nga laon nga tagtugas ang langit, hangin, kalayo, salamat sa mga bugay nga imo ginpaampit sa tangga ining imo nga amay na salamat sa kabuhi nga ginatulot mo sa mahinuklugon nga laon. Salamat sa maayo nga panahon kag ilabi na gid sang imo katutom sa amon. Bendisyon ang imo katawhan. Bendisyon ang ila mga palangabuhian. Bendisyon ang mga panggas sa amon mga talamnan. Bendisyon ang ilang paglugayawan sa iban nga kapungsuran. Kabay makalabot sila nga walay sablag sa ila pagapadulungan. Kag ila binagid, bendisyon ining isla sang Negros nga amon natawhan. Kinahalad namon ang ining pag-ampo para sa imo kadayawan.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's a bright and sunny Saturday here in our island, Negros, and we're in the province of Negros Occidental, and we're live in YouTube. And today's quite exciting because we are um, continuing our discussions in different topics of the practice of art and its related fields. So for today, um, we started, well, before anything else, I just want to give a background. This is a virtual conference by the Viva XCon. Viva is Visayas Islands Visual Arts Exhibition and Conference. So as part of our conference component, we are having a virtual conference and we started last November. This biennial is region-wide and it is represented actually by the different islands in the Visayan region of the Philippines. This was started in Bacolod City in 1990 and we're celebrating 30 years. No? And this includes the islands of Negros, Cebu, Panay, Samar, Leyte, Bohol, Guimaras, Siquijor, and Boracay. Viva XCon is a local initiative towards a promotion and strengthening of cooperation among visual art groups in the region. It has become an effective artist-centered blueprint with which other like initiatives have been patterned after. It has been adopted also by the National Commission for Culture in the Arts in the Philippines as a basis for local initiatives in the formation of the regional art festivals in Mindanao and Luzon. It is a continuing goal of Viva XCon to celebrate Visayan art by bridging the islands of the Visayas so as to provide a venue to facilitate dialogue such as this, interaction as exchanges also, networking, and cultural exchanges. thus addressing fundamental and relevant issues among visual art communities and related stakeholders. Having accomplished such goals in the 30 years of its existence, it now looks towards the future in ways that best can contribute to the development of the communities it serves. Given the reality of the 2020 pandemic and it's still ongoing, the limitation imposed by necessary precautionary measures and the impact of such the mindset of artists, Viva XCon 2020 has recalibrated the festival design to engage creative spirits in a virtual dynamics that is interactive, online, and will bring together the creative community so as to rise to the challenge of the times. Our objectives is actually to empower local art practices to be relevant to the challenging of the changing times, to explore opportunities for collaboration and forging of resources among sectors of the community, to respond to art-related issues proactively, and to design a preferred future for the artists' community. The virtual conference VCon. Our theme is the Son or What Now. The theme the Son or What Now is in keeping with future studies which postulates possible, probable, and preferable futures and the worldviews and myths that underlie them. What Now seeks to understand the context and circumstance of art community in relation to the sectors of the community it coexists with, what is likely to continue, and what could possibly change. We have started our virtual conference last November, and our VCon 2 started on December. This March, we started with the Kalibutan, the World in Mind, on a seminar Node 2 that artists explore intimacies and communities of practice, which featured Region 6 of the Visayas and Region 8 with their respective artists and regional curators. For today, we have March 20, Residencies After the Pandemic, which will be hosted by and moderated by Mayumi Hirano. Let me introduce to you our moderator. Mayumi Hirano is a freelance curator and co-initiator of an art project, Load Na Dito, since 2016. Her practice and research try to problematize invisible work entailed in the process of exhibition, making and reconsider the framework that fashions the dominant discourse of art. She is part of the planning team of Curating in Local Contexts workshop series with researchers and educators Tessa Marie Guazon and Luis Salas. She was a project manager of Gwangju Biennale 2018 in South Korea. I saw you, Mayumi. Curator of Kunganecho Area Management Center from 2008 to 2013. Researcher of Asia Art Archive in Hong Kong from 2006 to 2008. And curatorial assistant of Yokohama Triennale 2005. She was a recipient of the Asian Public Intellectual Fellowship in 2013 to 2014, through which she carried out research on artists-led projects in the Philippines and Thailand. She completed her master's studies at the Center for Curatorial Studies, Bard College. She is a senior lecturer at the Art Studies Department of the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Mayumi is currently making a book about curating and managing entitled Behind the Back Door, with female art practitioners in Osaka, Okinawa, Manila, Seoul, and Amsterdam. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Mayumi Hirano.
I thank you, Manny, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. And it is my honor to moderate today's session to discuss the current location and future possibilities of artists in residency programs. To begin, I would like to rewind our clock back to the year 1992, during the pre-internet age, 29 years ago in Bacolod. Several Japanese artists arrived in the city on the Negros Island to participate in the second Viva XCon. They had almost no contextual information about the festival and absolutely no prior contact with the Visayas or even the Philippines. Nonetheless, the artist organizers of the Viva XCon in Bacolod welcomed the arrival and participation of the unacquainted artists from a foreign country. The hosting artists not just provided assistance to the guest artists for research, production, and presentation, but they also converted their homes temporarily into residency. They fed the guest artists and took care of their stay. The interactions and great sense of hospitality provided through this makeshift homemade artist in residency program has made an indispensable effect on the artists who came from Japan, and some of them radically transformed the modes of their practice after the experience in Viva XCon in 1992. I strongly believe that the mutual engagements and the will to share the space, time, and ideas with the peer artists and cultural workers have been the core value of Viva XCon's succeeded throughout its 30 years of history. Today, there is a great number of artist in residency programs across the globe with varied scales, modalities, and visions. Regardless of the particular features of the programs, coexistence and entanglement of professional and personal spheres make artist in residency programs an essential part in the ecology of contemporary art. However, just as we are having this gathering in the virtual space this morning, the pandemic has greatly affected the operations of the residency programs and has led to rethinking of the ways to continue its existence and relevance. The pause of traveling has reminded us of the importance of the local contexts and immediate communities while redirecting our attention to the potential of virtual connections. At the same time, the global uncertainty has given sharper focus on the pressing global issues of exploitation, violence, hatred, and ecological unsustainability. I believe discussing about the roles and forms of the artist in residency provides us the opportunity to rethink the ways to produce, present, and receive art in these trying times with an expanded imagination. I look forward to presentations and conversations with the three speakers today. We will have all the presentations first, and afterwards, we will open the floor for a Q&A session. So please use the chat box on Facebook and here at the Zoom to send us your questions. Okay, so let me introduce our first speaker, Mr. Uda Kuen. Okay, so Uda Kuen is the senior curator of Taiwan Contemporary Culture Lab. He was the director of Taipei Artist Village and Treasure Hill Artist Village and chairman of Taiwan Art Space Alliance and the chief curator of Kwandu Museum of Fine Arts and the director of VT Art Salon. He has long been focusing on the generation and evolution of contemporary art and Asian cultures. He not only reflects on the social conditions of Asian countries with his unique artistic language, but also contemplates the ways to embody the philosophy of art without borders by treating art as a means under the impact of globalization and neoliberalism. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Uda Kuen. The floor is yours.
Hello. Hello, thank you, Mayumi, for the introduction, and it's really honoring to be invited to this Viva ESCO virtual forum. Then today I would like to presentation my working period and also the residency, the knowledge I have it to all the participants. Okay, so now I'm sharing my desktop view of you. So my presentation title will be the residency after pandemic, and CLAB can be the method, and because the as the Mayumi just mentioned, in the world actually we do have a lot of residency programs, and also a lot of like institutions and alliance actually they are helping the artists and make the link for the everyone, and actually all these resources that the artists they can reach out very easily. So today I'm not doing the promotion of them, but actually I will suggest all the artists who are willing have an interest in to do a residency, and please take a look of all these resources online. Actually, it's very easy. You can reach it, and you can find a lot of information and which kind of like resource they are doing the open call right now. And for example, like Res Arts, and they are the biggest, I think they have more than 400 members of the world, and each residence program, they are individually, but connected together. And for the AIRJ, that's a website and based in Kyoto in Japan, and they cover all the residency program in Japan, and trans artists and alliance of art community who they are in Europe and also in United States. So those two residency communities, they are also helping a lot of artists and who willing have any questions, and you can raise the question and to them. And the last one, that's the Taipei Artist Village and Treasure Hill, and who I have been working for 3 years over there. So it's based in Taipei and one of the community in residency program, and based on for the international artists and Taiwan artists as well. So I also would like to introduce this art residency network Taiwan. This is the residency program, and as also a website, and collect a lot of resource and open call information to all the artists. So this kind of platform actually, I really will suggest all of the artists they trying to use it. Yeah, and for example, Res Arts, you can discover any resource from each area. For example, like Europe and Middle Asia, and Africa and globally, and they have a map. You can log in and you can find out which residence program actually is suitable for the different kind of artists. Because as we know, for the residency program, actually they are not only for the visual artists, and even for the visual artists, they are many different kind of way, and also the creations for example, like a video art or the installing art or the multimedia work, and even for the ceramic or the stage design, any kind of practice you can, for different kind of artists you can apply. So for us, actually it started at 2015. Actually in Taiwan, we have this TASA, is a NGO foundation, and it's initiated from the Taipei Artist Village. So we also do like annual meetings to provide the different kind of knowledge, among the residency and give the artists some different thought. So this is the annual meeting we host at the Taipei Fine Art Museum, and it's all linked to the different kind of issues. So I remember last year, that's from the space to the festivals, and any other years, this that's for the art circling systems. So the main title, with a different main title, then we invited a different speaker among the world and coming to Taipei to share their knowledge and their way to the Taiwan and local audience. Yeah, so we always think, if we cannot do the great things and we can do the small things in a great way. It's kind of like sharing idea for from each of your ability, and also can sharing your knowledge to everyone. So that's the several things I would like to introduce for the from friends online and today. And the second part of my presentation, I would like to introduce a little bit about the C-Lab, Taiwan Contemporary Cultural Lab, which is I'm working on with this right now. And you can see the this picture from the sky view. And this place used to be the headquarters of the Taiwan Air Force. But after the 2012, the Air Force moved to the new space. Then this place become a kind of like an empty space for a while. But about the site, they have some history background. During the World War II, and when the Japanese occupation era, then that place was the government's Institute Research Center. And after World War II, then KMT government come to Taiwan. Then that place become the Cold War Military Recommend Center, the headquarters of the Taiwan Air Force. Then after 2018, that's the reason. Like in 3 years, then we are start these projects over there. So we're trying to turns the military space to a cultural public space to the citizens. So this site can be the new institution, and we try to merge like a contemporary arts and technology and media and the social innovation together. So three parts that will be main different, most important directions: art, technology, and the society. And then maybe you can imagine the space. Actually, they do have a lot of wall over layers, and we try to open it and become a cultural park. So there's a short video clip I can share with you. So from the military base to the public space. So first of all, we do the things is knocking down the wall and welcome the audience come over. And we are not only knocking down the wall, and use those material can be regenerate and reusing for some projects together. So that's the several things we trying to organize for last year. And we do the public art, so we change the big grass to the open space. And also we have the making kind of like a reopen party for the citizens. And because of the time gap, maybe I will skip a little bit. Yeah. And for this year, due to the pandemic, and we also invited the artist Yao Ruizhong, who did the some exhibition on site in C-Lab, but a lot of audience, they couldn't reach our exhibition, especially for the international audience. So that's why we make this virtual website, and that's the audience they can viewing all the exhibition and through those kind of virtual way to access the exhibition. And that's of course, that's the opening, and you can see everyone actually is wearing a mask. And because that's at the 2020 and May, we opened this exhibition, and that's kind of harsh time, even in Taiwan. But Taiwan, we are very lucky. We still can we don't have a really lockdown for the whole years, but we still like limited the visitors. Yeah. And that's why we do this kind of virtual way to do the exhibition. Yeah. And at this exhibition open, actually we eventually we do a lot of like outdoor events and a story park, yeah, as well. And this is kind of another video clip I would like to share with you.
您知道吗？我们生活的这个世界，一开始西元前8000年人口才500万人。
So we see all kind of like outdoor events, and see that we trying to give the historical background about the site and the history about the space, and also try to give some imagination way and how we can use the space and try to open to all the citizens, artists, and creators. So that's the other part then. And for the entire whole years, actually in C-Lab, we did a lot of online talk, and with the bio arts or the new innovations. So online forum, we have a different point, and even for the String C-Lab, that's an individual projects. We do the open call, and at the end, we select the 7 projects. We support all the artists, then they can do the open online performance by their own. So those kind of way, it's not only for the visual artists, and also we invited like dancer or theater artists and join our project. And actually start from last year, and at the most beginning, actually we did some workshop. And because at that time, in Taiwan, all the resources kind of, including the mask, maybe everybody remember at last year, and everybody need to do the mask. So we did a lot of workshop and tell the society how artists can help the societies. So like using all the different material and make the micro infrared temperature motors, and also the UV light box, try to extend the mask life, then they can use it. And C-Lab, actually, we also did a lot of international exhibition and other way together. But because of the pandemic, last year, our international exchange or residency program actually is almost a stop, but we are still doing a lot of exhibition. For example, this is the Chronics Biennial in Marseille in South France, and we trying to send all the artwork to France and giving them the installing manual, and the technical team in France, they're helping us to install all the exhibition. And recently we have another exhibition that's in Guangzhou Biennial C-Lab. We have our pavilion over there. So with those technology help, actually we try to continue or adopt our activities, in other countries as well. So And last year we also did online forum and with the ACC in Gwangju. I believe Mayumi was very familiar with the space, and at that moment we invited speaker from M+, and this is one of the really touched case I would like to share with you. And because the theater actually are all closed, but in Hong Kong, the theater space, they invited the 30 theater actor or dancer to face the empty theater stage, and with the audience, just give them like 5 minutes or 6 minutes to without a rehearsal, and they can tell what they thought about the pandemic eras. So when I saw those video clips, I was really touched and respect from the really heal thing, and how the mankind can face this crisis of the pandemic of the world. And the other case I would like to share with the Japanese theater, Moonlight Mobile Theater. Actually, they make the design of this kind of turning mailbox slot, and let the audience, they can watch the performance and with the boundary and for each other, and with the performance in the centers. So this kind of like a very interesting way, we still can, even during the pandemic, we still can find them human, they can use their creative way and to try to make the things happen in the world. So, and this is what the last part I would like to share with you is the Taiwan Creative Content Festival. And C-Lab, we also participated, and we have a different kind of lab. Is, for example, this is belong to the Taiwan Song Lab. Then we did this like 360 degrees projections, immersive theater as a platform, and invited the artists to develop the future image with us and with the immersive sound systems. Yeah. So that's the short video I would like to share with you guys. So that's the process actually for the dome we try to make it, but with it, actually that's the kind of platform, and we try to merge the architecture and the scientists and artists and all working cooperation together. So the main goal of the theater of the TLAB, actually, we are not provide the platform or only residency for the artists, but also we trying to create it platform and try to combine the different resources to the artists who don't have like a large resource, then they can using those kind of facilities and our space. And we also have like a theater and some rehearsal space. So that's why in Taiwan, we're trying to, that's why I will say the syllabus is a little bit different with the other residency programs. Yeah, because we have a very clear main goal what we're trying to approach, and the other hand, we will also do the research and invited some international partners to cooperation with us. So in different ways or different directions, we will cooperation with the different partners. So, but in the other hands, we're trying to make the CLab as an open platform and or cultural hub to all the Taiwan artists and the artists for the international worldwide. So I think that's my presentation, and thank you for the listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dakwen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we would like to move on to the next presentation. Okay. Can I see the slide of Inti? Yes, thank you. Okay, so let me introduce Inti. Inti Guerrero is tutor of curatorial studies of CASC Ghent and the artistic director of various Autes projects Manila since 2018. He was the Estelita B. Brodsky Adjunct Curator of Latin American Art at Tate London from 2016 to 2020. Chief Curator of the 38th EVA International Islands Biennial, Limerick, in 2018. Guest Curator of Dakar Biennale 2018. La Biennale de l'Art Africaine Contemporary Dakar in 2018. Co-curator of the 44th Salon Nacional de Artistas Pereira 2016, and the artistic director of Teoretica San Jose from 2011 to 2014. Okay. So welcome, Inti. The floor is yours. Inti, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes. Okay. Perfect. You can see the slides, right?
Yes, we can see it clearly.
Okay. I don't know why it doesn't appear on mine, but I trust they're there. Sorry, let me stop sharing and share again. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you, at least online. And I am, well, as I'm looking for, again, my slide, pardon, there's always some.
No worries, take your time, Inti.
Yes, so I just wanted to, well, first congratulate everyone at Viva XCon and my support and compassion for such a troubling time to try to do an event. I'm a personal fan of Bacolod and all the incredible art scene that is there and its history and legacy. So I'm very honored to be part of this very small event, and I think I speak on behalf of all of us from De Las Artes projects, and also making sure that I'm representing here a number of important people that put up together all the different projects that we have done in the past and that have been sadly in pause because of the situation. So I'll just share, I think maybe it would be easier to just share directly my screen. Oh, here. Okay, you must see it now, right?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Yes, so with, that thanks moment also to Mayumi for doing this job of moderating today. And I'll just share a little bit about what we had done in the past, just to get a sense of what we had been doing, and maybe we can enter into the conversation into the possibilities of how to move forward, or how does everyone see the current possibilities of residencies, because of course, in if there have been exhibitions that have been canceled or postponed because of the pandemic, I think the model of the residency is completely in a real crisis, almost could become not obsolete, but suspended for quite a while, given that movement and travel is so essential for its existence. You know? And so it's definitely something that maybe it's maybe with historical distance, art historians might speak of art residencies before coronavirus as a theme, as a subject in thesis, and like as a way of analyzing contemporary global art practice, because indeed a lot of artists produced their work in residencies or were catalyzed by the experience of being in a place or working with a specific institution during the residency. And I wanted to emphasize, this idea of catalyzing, because residencies, to my mind, they are the catalyzers of different artistic processes, where sometimes an artwork is completed, sometimes there's like a success story. I don't know, it's part of a major exhibition, it's collected by a museum, or sometimes it's not, which is fine. I think residencies don't have a specific target. They can vary, again, based on what is considered as an outcome. It could be the perfect time for writing chapter of your thesis, of sketching an idea. But of course, there's a lot of effort and budget and resources that do come from making those residencies happen. And I think this cartoon from the controversial art cartoonist Paulo Guerra is quite telling of how there is pragmatics involved in residencies, no? That it's not just bringing an artist, but it's taking care of that artist. And of course, this cartoon makes fun of the very fact that, well, people have to eat and survive. And the idea of feeding, I think here is not only the digestive dietary concerns of the artist's happiness, but the artist's happiness also based on how you feed the artist with information, with resources, with connections, with networks from where that artist is. And I think that at Bellas Artes, we've tried to do that both in first years and in more recent years, creating possibilities of feeding those artists with different contexts around the areas where the residency takes place. Now, I'll just give a brief introduction, although many people in the room know already a bit of where Bellas Artes residency program takes place. It basically lives within the heritage hotel site in Patan of Las Casas Filipinas. And it is a collaboration with the artisans workshops that you see here to the video to the right, who are the people leading and doing the actual reparations and the creating the new missing pieces of the many wooden old houses that were brought to this site. And they are incredible craftsmen, artists in their own right, and they have been the main collaborators of many of the um, residents that we bring to this site, where there is the possibility to collaborate in a project with this workshop, but that is not necessarily the main goal, or it's basically that is the context of creation that is available. But sometimes artists don't necessarily produce a work with some of these workshops. Of course, I'm just showing you here a video of the workshops that are related to wood carving, which have been indeed one of the most active collaborators with some of the artists. The geography of where it is also, perhaps if you're not related to this area of Luzon, here we would have to travel with artists from arriving to Manila or that are based in Manila, and there are two ways to go there, either by car, which could take, it says here 3 hours and 4, but it could take 6 hours or 7, or sometimes if we were lucky we could take the ferry across directly here, and that would take only 2 hours to get here. Now, what I meant about how to feed artists with resources was that even though the residency and the housing and the meals and the workshops took place here in this part of Batan, of Pagak, the other resources that we wanted the artists to engage with, or at least to know about them, to know about the history of this place, which is quite loaded, would be, on one hand, if you see to the right, the World War history, since Darkun just talked about the memory and the legacies of World War II in these many sites in Asia that are occupied or are linked to cultural production. We also have a ghostly World War II landscape in this case, given that the Battle of Bataan, this was one of the main theaters of World War II. This memorial was built during the Marcos. And so this is one of the sites that we would take artists. Another site would be the nuclear power plant, also built in the last 9 decade of the Marcos regime, where many artists were fascinated by the structure, and until actually even today, if you visit a show currently happening at Canvas, Renz Baluyot, who was one of our residents, he is showing one of his fabulous, amazing paintings with a peephole here, where he links the unfunctioning or never functioning Marcos nuclear power plant with the terrible history of Chernobyl. So this is just to give us a sense of the context of the area. And also in relation to World War II, this would be a site where we would take artists. This was the place where the Japanese surrendered and were forced to sign by the American generals. A very interesting, curious museum of this dioramas that I think many artists are fascinated to see, this like small museums as a source, again, of understanding the context, but not only the history of the context, but how people want to tell the history, you know? So because of that very loaded site, the idea of how residents are chosen are also based on looking and inviting artists who, in their practice, they themselves have been working with subjects such as World War II or Japanese occupation as part of their work, or the main focus of the work, which is the case, for example, of James T. Hong from Taiwan. I just wanted to point out here to the left is our wonderful residency coordinator, residency curator, I call him, who is R.J. Camacho, an artist of his own right. And another side of World War II, again, just to give you a sense that how important it is. This is Mantamarco, that under this mountain, there's a museum as well. Again, artists very interested on how this story is narrated, the choices of photographs, of labels become part of the experience of being in that residency. So again, this gives you an idea that it's not only about being inside the workshops or collaborating with the artisans, which can be possible, but it's also being impregnated by all this socio-political landscape. And here's just, I'll just go very fast through some of the artists that we've invited. Tuan Andrew New, he is a Vietnamese American artist. Because he had a very consistent practice related to refugees from Vietnam. In his previous work, he wanted to work with a site, or his reading of a site in Bataan, which is here, which is the Philippine Refugee Processing Center, where the so-called boat people museum is there as a way to memorialize the many families of Vietnamese refugees that arrived to the Philippines in the aftermath of the Vietnam War and in continuing years. And so in his case, he made a film where not only did he work with the real actors around the area, but he produced these objects in the workshops that were activated in the piece. I won't tell you more about the piece. You can see it, or if you want to know more about it, maybe in the conversation we can talk later. But here you can tell the detail of the very sophisticated carving art that takes place in the workshops. And this is to give you a sense on how things end up somehow disseminated in this case, in the white cube setting, very, let's say, normal process of how residencies produce, catalyze this possibilities of creation to produce very concrete works and projects by artists. But something super important to bear in mind of how this negotiation of collaboration with the workshops takes place, thanks to R.J. Camacho. There is, first of all, every time that an artist would come, the artist would make an introduction to his or her work to the carvers as a way of presenting themselves. So it's translated by RJ that you see here to the right. And it's a way to, not be an alien to a reality and a form of working that is already in place there, no? Because basically you're parachuting an artist that in many cases has never been to the Philippines, in the case of some of the international artists. And so there has to be, this dialogue of understanding where each of the people who are involved in these projects are coming from. So that has led to actually some artists being more interested in the lives and biographies of the carvers. Apologies, I didn't put the names of the artists here, but Shilasha and Hitman They are artists from Nepal who took portraits of some of the carvers who they interviewed as part of their research into migrant workers. So this is a carver who in the past had been a seafarer, and they took portraits of um, individuals with their passports and their seafarer passports. Or in the case with the continuing the workshops, sometimes the carving or the involvement of the carvers it's minimal. Sometimes the artist wants to really get into the materiality of making certain objects. This is Hera Buyukta Siyan from Turkey, who she came also very open to try to understand the sites. We took her everywhere, but she wasn't so much interested in this contextual historical sites, but more noticing within actually the hotel complex that the windows made by Capiz was something that she really thought were something that she would really like to look into. So she actually forced us to go into other towns around Bagak where we had never visited or taken artists before. And I think that's the beauty of residencies as well, that sometimes it's artists' interests and needs and wishes that also make you as an institution learn about your own context, things that you were not seeing before. So she was interested in this tropical architecture design, and she finally evolved her process into this beautiful piece for the Singapore Biennial, where you can see the pieces are in a more abstract sculpture referring to the typhoon and the architecture of what she was researching in. And this is now towards the end. It's also important, I think, to open the conversation to not only the visual arts or think that everything has to be object-based when it comes to production of a residency or a project or invitation with an artist. Asa Jackson, Filipino dancer artist that some people here in the room are familiar with her work. She was invited in a very open platform invitation to just develop a piece or give her time, space, resources, feed the artist and her collaborators in a moment where it was the baby steps of a project that has taken its own life. So in the area, in the Heritage Hotel, Asa Jackson and some of her dance collaborators spent, I think, 3 weeks and had basically the time and space to think and develop a piece that later evolved in what is now a theater piece, and that has been circulating in different festivals in Taiwan, in Japan, where the artists are actually in their own houses and they play with the idea of the Zoom and the zoo and talking about the catharsis and the anxieties that I think everybody is feeling nowadays because of lockdowns and how they are changing our animal human behavior because of the restraints that we've been placed upon from our different governments. And I just wanted to end here. This was our last invitation, Ronil Compra from the Visayas, and he was extremely unlucky because when he arrived to do his residency, and as you can see, of course, we invited him because he already had an interest in the facades of architecture and the way to imprint the memory of such places. So it was also a very open invitation to do something with him. And when he was there, the lockdown happened, so he couldn't go back to the desire to his hometown, and he stayed there for so long. And anyway, so this is just a screenshot of his Instagram. So he says here, until this lockdown is lifted, I will be in solitary starting today. I'd better call this home. Thoughts on my family back in Cebu and solidarity on the millions of people who's dealing with the uncertainties and most especially the underprivileged. Stay safe, ayo ayo. So in one of his interviews, he wrote this, and I'll finish with this. How will artists of the, so this is an interview that was made to him during lockdown. He says, how will artists of the 2020s grapple with the dramatic changes in our lives today? Perhaps it is too soon to tell, but artists will keep us striving to find inspiration to reflect and create a vision for the future. Compra sees the period of reflection as a time to think about what we want our world to become after we emerge from this crisis. This was a year ago. He says that everyone can have the chance to reset and re-engineer the world that we long to be experienced. Yeah, that's it. Yes, that is it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Inti.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So may we move on to the last presentation by Ms. Martin J. Holman. Let me introduce her first. Ms. Holman is Director of Residency and Deputy General Director of Rijksacademy in Amsterdam. Rijksacademy is an artist residency program with unique ecology, which is highly international, multidisciplinary, experimental, and critically engaged. The artists at the Rijksacademy are supported with a studio, a stipend, and by a wide range of artistic and technical advisors, including artists, thinkers, and curators. They have access to technical workshops, a library, and discursive engagement, including workshops, lectures, and events. Artists are stimulated to challenge themselves, to experiment, to deepen their practices, and to explore what comes from working alongside positions that are vastly different from one another. The Rijksacademy is working with a global perspective and with sensitivity to the local. Okay. So welcome, Martin J. from Netherlands, and it's around 3 a.m. for you now. Okay, thank you. The floor is yours.
Hello, can you see the screen?
Yes, yes, we can.
Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you for the invitation. It's really it's very nice to join you for this webinar at the other side of the world. I'm currently in Amsterdam, and indeed it's 4 a.m. in the morning. And I was actually really looking forward to participate because of as we all know, due to the situation we are currently in the world, we are so focused on our very close environment and dealing with very real and very nearby problems that it's actually really nice to join, to think about the other side of the world and to be connected in this way. So I'm happy to be here. It's 4 a.m. so forgive me if I'm a little bit sleepy maybe. This is the Rijksacademy in Amsterdam, international artist residency with a very long history. Last year we existed for 150 years. And all those years, the Rijksacademy has been dedicated to supporting artistic development of artists with a highly diverse range of positions, backgrounds, geographies, ways of working. this building, it's in the center of Amsterdam, and like the building of the Sea Lab in Taiwan, it has a military history. It's barracks from the cavalry before the Rijksacademie moved into this building. This is the view from above. It's quite big building. All resident artists have a studio in this building. All facilities are inside. We have a garden, courtyard, a lot of space actually. The artists don't live in this building, but they live quite close to the Rijksacademie. So we provide all international artists coming to Amsterdam with housing nearby the Rijksacademie. Every year we select 22 till 24 new artists for a residency of 1 year, which can be extended with another year. So in total, the total community exists of about 45 artists, half in the first year, half in the second year, and half from the Netherlands, which is also an international group of artists, but they have a relation. They are based in the Netherlands already, and the rest, the other half, is artists from all continents. At the moment, there are artists from 26 different countries working in the Rijksacademie and from all parts of the world. And this global community is actually, it's really a characteristic of the Rijksacademie since the early 1990s. The Rijksacademie gives time and space for development of work and thinking, for experiments, tryouts, rethinking one's project, one's practice, research, collaboration, the production of work, the production of prototypes. And some artists come in with a very clear idea, a clear project they want to develop on shorter terms or very long-term projects. But also many artists come with a really empty agenda and an open-ended research question, basically. And on a practical level, we provide all the artists with a stipend. So all artists, no matter where an artist is coming from, will have the same basic income, financial basis, and a work budget to work from. And this is really important because there are not so many residency programs that have the possibility to offer that. So you don't need, as an artist applying to the Rijksacademie, you don't need a sponsor, you don't need recommendations, you don't need access to fellowships yet. You apply, and we guarantee you the possibility to come. So we provide you all the practicalities, and then it's actually our responsibility to find the funding, the coverage for it. Apart from those basic conditions, we offer artistic, theoretical, and technical facilities and support. I'll show you some. I'll take you quickly through some images, examples of studios, examples of ways of working. Without entering too deep into it. And most of the images you're seeing are made during the Open Studios events, which is our annual public presentation. So you see sometimes, like this one, quite clean studio spaces. This is not always, of course, the situation. This is the studio of an Irish artist, Owen Ryan, who did a project on agriculture and agricultural politics in Europe. This is a studio space of an artist duo. They built actually an installation. They were working on it for a very long time, the Theater of the Oppressed. This is a studio shot from a Chinese artist who was in the Rijksacademie, Dan Zhu. a kitchen project. This is an artistic project of a Korean artist, Dongwon Kam. So it's a social place where residents of the artist get together, cook together, talk about work, but also do fermentation together, grow herbs and vegetables together. This is in the Rijksacademie. This is the set of a film that German artist Felix Berger worked. So this is his studio, and this studio space was, during the 2 years he was in the Rijksacademie, completely transforming into a labyrinth of a kind of fictitious madman. Performances are very, I mean, everywhere in the art world we see it now, but also in the Rijksacademie, so many artists dealing with performance. This is Croatian artist Nora Turato. Mireille Lee, a Korean artist. The sculpture, it's a bit difficult to see maybe, but it was like really like dripping, slimy, organic sculpture. You see there's a pump on the bottom transporting this kind of slime to the top, and it was slowly falling back again. Ana Maria Gomez Lopez, a Colombian artist who was in the Rijksacademie, who worked for a long time together with a doctor from a local hospital. And what she did was actually creating a system in which her blood was circulating around her body. This is a performance by Moroccan artist Salim Bayri. He's on the left top in the studio. And he was actually, this was a kind of storytelling. He was pointing, so all kind of objects, and the big breads that are on the tables were parts of a kind of narrative that he was telling to the audience. Molly Palmer, this is a British artist who works with video and sculpture, but also you can't see it here, but the sound is very important. She's a composer as well. And this is a project which actually the photo shows this cart inside the studio, but this was usually outside the studio traveling through Amsterdam. It's a project of Mexican artist in the Rijksacademie who was dealing with cacao trade. So he was burning cacao beans on this cart, and he was traveling through parks in Amsterdam and public space, and actually addressing the colonial history of the Netherlands, the trading of the Netherlands, and already for a long time, for centuries, Amsterdam is the center of the world for cacao trade, and it still is. I showed you the images of the studios because I think it's a very basic, well, actually starting point of every residency in the Rijksacademie, and many of the artists coming to the Rijksacademie never had a studio before. And so in the beginning, it's always it takes some time to find your way dealing with this kind of space that is suddenly yours, and you can do whatever you want with it. But in the end, for every artist, the studio is a really important place. It's and because there's so many different ways of using it, you can use it as your private space, of course. You can use it as a collective space. You can bring people there. You can collaborate. You can use it as a research space, as a space for production, for meetings, for organizing events, for editing a film, as an archive, as a place to collect things, objects, as a place for action. So in the end, it's really fundamental, and we always hope actually that artists open the doors and that everything becomes a kind of public space. But in the end, this privacy and this space where you are in control is really important. Apart from the studio, which is the starting point, we offer quite intense artistic and theoretical advice. So we invite artists, which are international professional artists, visiting the Rijksacademie regularly, talking to the residents. They also do, apart from individual studios visits, they do seminars, screenings, reading groups, whatever is actually of interest for the residents. And apart from those regularly visiting advisors, we invite guests, and the residents in the Rijksacademie have a budget to invite guests. So they are very much involved in inviting who they would like to meet. And as you can see, they're coming from all around the world. We also have theory advisors, we call them, art critics, writers, curators, but also scientists from other disciplines, working together, collaborating, advising the residents. This is our library. And it's a very special place, also used a lot because it's really artist driven. So this library has been growing over the years by donations, books that have been brought by all the residents that have been in the Rijksacademie, by guests that we invite. But also the artists collaborate with the librarian, who is very active in collecting new books. So it's a very interesting, artist-driven library. It's really great and it's used a lot, even though we hear that in the Netherlands libraries are not so popular anymore, but this library is. The history of the Rijksacademie is also accessible in the building. So this is part of our historical library with books dating back to the 17th century. A collection of plasters, also from the past centuries, and this history is to be used. It's in the building, so it's around, and artists use it in their work. We have, which is quite known in the Rijksacademie is quite known for the technical infrastructure. So we have technical workshops in all different fields that artists might need, both traditional as well digital contemporary techniques. The workshops are run by technicians who are specialized in one field, but who are able to think and work creatively beyond their own disciplines. So interdisciplinary working, innovative technical solutions are made possible by often very long-lasting collaborations between the artist and the technicians. And when artists leave the Rijksacademie after 2 years, they often come back also from abroad to keep on working together with the technicians. So you can see there are like the kind of traditional machinery, wood carving, metal constructions, etc. Mold making. This is a graphic workshop with all kind of traditional techniques still available. This knowledge is in the Rijksacademie, but it's what is very nice is that you can combine, heliogravure, kind of traditional graphic technique, with digital techniques. So these are digital printers, litho stones. A very popular workshop is the ceramic workshop. You can make, as you can see, this is a kiln where you can make life-size sculptures, And actually, the ceramic workshop is maybe the most popular workshop in the Rijksacademie. Even artists who never physically make things, who are really research-based, they all end up in the ceramic workshop, because I think it's the most unpredictable and experimental medium. It's very difficult to control unless you have a lot of knowledge, and especially using this technique without having all the knowledge. And this is the woman on the picture is the technician working together with the residents. But this kind of almost mythical experimental process is really popular. The sound studio. This is a CNC router. We also still have dark rooms, photography dark rooms. A paint and plastics workshop, mold making again. This is the electronic workshop, working with interactive devices, and this is animatronics made by Nathaniel Mellers, British artist. A film studio. So all those facilities are available for all the artists in the Rijksacademie. You just make your appointment with a technician. They are free of charge, so you don't pay for them. And what is really great is that that the crossovers between the different disciplines, the lines are really short. And you can really connect everything. You can make a 3D print to make a mold. From that, you make ceramic sculptures in the kiln, which will be used in a performance or a film. So we see this objects and researchers travel through the building, through the different studios. I think it's also the pleasure of making is really prominent in the Rijksacademie. As I said, many artists who never were really makers really enjoy this thinking through doing, actually thinking through making. What I forgot to say is that, of course, in the last few years, the Rijksacademie is also very actively busy with a more ecological approach towards making. So in the sense of using materials or not using certain materials anymore, but also in thinking in a more circular way, because of not only buying or using materials, but also reusing and having spaces where leftovers can be taken and are available for everyone. So how do you get a place at the Rijksacademie if you're interested? We work with an open call. So every year we have an open call where everyone can apply. Most of the artists finished a bachelor's or a master's degree and have a couple of years independent practice working as an artist, but it's not required. We don't have age limits, but in general, I think the youngest artists and residents that we are having are about, 24, 25. And the oldest, well, sometimes we have artists of 60 years old, but that's quite exceptional. So in general, it's between 30 and 35 years old. You can apply by filling in an online application form and upload a portfolio, and we ask you to answer all kind of questions about your motivation and the content of your work, etc. And then after this deadline, the whole selection process takes approximately half a year, and that has to do with the numbers. So we have every year, let's say, between 1,700 and 2,000 applications for 22 till 24 places. And it's a project that we spend a lot of time with. The jury process is really important for us, and the jury is very committed to really make the right decision. So every application is really looked at and discussed, and so it goes in different rounds. The jury is composed of, is international and is composed of advisors, advisors that are connected to the Rijksacademie, but also every year we invite guests to join the jury, and every year the jury is changing. The jury is independent, so their only task is to make a selection of a community of artists that they believe will make use best of the Rijksacademie, or can make use best. So as I said before, you don't need recommendations to apply. You don't need funding. You don't. So the jury will not look with those eyes. They really look at the work. They look at the potential for further development. They look at urgency. How urgent is a practice in the world right now, but also how urgent is it for an artist, as far as we can judge that, how urgent it is for an artist to come at this moment to the Rijksacademie. Of course, we look at the quality of the work or the quality of the portfolio. Sometimes it's really important to think if you're interested in applying, to think about your portfolio and to discuss it with people. The relevance of a practice at this moment, and we want to have different types of practices. So to create, in the end, a very diverse community of artistic positions and backgrounds. And it's sometimes difficult to judge, but we also really want to, we would like to have candidates that are ready and willing to make use, to really commit for a substantial time to the Rijksacademie, but also who so not only want to make use, but also want to contribute to and play a role in the community. So far, I've been talking about the Rijksacademie as it was, until COVID reached us a year ago. And as we all, as people and organizations around the world, we experienced nothing is the same, basically. So artists who just started their residency last year in the end of January, early February, coming to Amsterdam from all places in different places in the world, were confronted with a lockdown within a few weeks after their arrival. Staff members were, and still are, obliged to work from home mainly. We've been lucky to keep all the studios open for the whole year, and provide all the artists with takeaway lunches, and the food is really important. Inti was already talking about it, but it's literally really important. Food and mental food. So we have been continuing with providing studio visits, doing activities, but of course everything through Zoom and online. But the pandemic drastically disrupted the very social and communal ecosystem that the Rijksacademie is by nature. Everything happens through Zoom, presentations happen through Zoom, the whole full jury process took place through Zoom. We decided to adapt our calendar, so we extended the residency with half a year. So all artists stay longer because of actually losing so much time. And I think what is also important, what we experienced, is that to create a space which is as safe as possible in this very precarious and uncertain times. So I think that can be a role of a residency program, to provide safety, stability, and care, a system of care for artists. However, also positive things are happening. The experience of living in the pandemic, in isolation with social distancing, shows us how meaningful it is to be together, how collaborations and co-creation are necessary for social interaction in and beyond the world of art. It raised questions about how we as organization can become more meaningful in our close surroundings and the local context. Now traveling is limited, and how we can play a role beyond what we are already doing through the practice of artists. And at the moment we are developing a new workshop, we call it social practice workshop. And social practice, often defined as a collaborative, community-driven work that engages with social issues, has emerged as a way for artists to confront the current political and social challenges. There are many artists wanting to become more meaningful, working against what art has become in times of capitalism and neoliberalism. And the social technician that we are appointing at the moment will develop ongoing sustainable relations with our local surroundings, communities, especially in Amsterdam and Amsterdam East. It's a very, very international mixed neighborhood close to the Rijksacademie. It will enable artists of the Rijksacademie to engage with the wider society, but also enable non-art communities to enter into the Rijksacademie, not as audiences so much, but as active participants in the art practices and discussions happening in this really global community that we have in the Rijksacademie in Amsterdam. So that's what we are working on at the moment. Inti was talking about the crisis of residency programs around at the moment. And I'm not so sure. I think it is also really definitely a future for residencies, but maybe we can talk about that later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin G. So today we have three very presentations about three diverse residency programs with different organizational structures, and the scale and the time span is also quite different. And they are all situated in very different contexts. So we actually been receiving several questions. So I would like to move on to getting these questions. Okay, so the first question I would like to read is for Inti. How does Belias navigate the ethics of labor question? How do they attempt to mitigate the possibility of the artist being a disruptive presence or added load to these employed as craftspeople by the hotel/foundation?
Yeah, that's an important question. And now listening to Martini, also maybe we can start associating that. I just realized that we also share in a way the idea that there's this possibility for artists to work with these workshops, with specific workshops in our case, using the sites and the form of operations of the renovations of the buildings in this heritage hotel. But of course, in the Rijksacademie, it's a very institutionalized social democratic context where you have an actual technician who is in a payroll and is paid and is specifically helping and collaborating with the artists that sign up to that workshop. In our case, given that it is a chain of production of a commercial venture, the process of collaborating whenever an artist does a project, again, because not every artist does a project with the workshops, but when that happens, we are, through RJ, very careful to understand what is the schedule of the people we want to collaborate with. Because how it works is that they come for, they're paid through an hour. It's an hourly to work within the workshops. Yeah, it's like an hour rate. And they are approached in advance so that they don't have to do extra work, basically. They don't have to give results with their previous work with the company. So that's how it works, basically. That's how the ethics works around. Like, basically, there's not an extra. It's not an extra job for them. Yeah, but or extra hours. When we see. The other thing is that sometimes when for some artists, when the artist and the artisan and we as institutions see that it's taking a lot of time, because with any art project you think of something but it actually takes more time and more effort than you thought, then there's actually there has been moments of the artist compensating the hours of the carver as something completely different. And what has happened even further is that sometimes some of these artists have been asked to different exhibitions with the project that they developed in the residency. So they want to produce more objects. And in that case, it's already a different negotiation. The artisan is actually paid as an independent outside of the contract that it has with with the main company. So basically, if an artist is invited to a biennial or an exhibition and wants to produce more pieces outside of the residency, it's like a complete new job paid to the artist. But yeah, that's a great question. Also, I think a way of, it's not compensation, but also part of there's a lot of other workshops that we do with the artists that are in residency while they're there. And I think that that's also, it's obviously not monetary compensation, but we have a lot of like outdoor activities by the beach with many of the artisans, and they would stay, basically it's like a free time of a creative time outside of their daily job. And I think that that's also part of the collaboration that happens with the artists.
Thank you, Inti. Okay, so I would like to move on to the next question. This is for Dakwen. As advocates of Taiwanese culture and identity, what is your process in connecting folkways and traditions to contemporary art practices?
I think this is also a very important questions, and because of my presentation time limits, so I didn't really sharing any other like main projects in C Lab. Actually, we have a project called Creators Project. Yeah. So this project actually, is supported by different kind of creators or research support. So you can do research for the agricultural or the Taiwan traditional international operational art research, or any kind of research about the scientists and societies. So with this 4 years open call, then we of course invited, we have a selecting process. Then those projects actually bring us like a lot of different perspectives from all kind of cultural values from Taiwan, and also from all the connected world together. So when those artists they apply and they can make their team together, then we will support the funding and also the the space and also the facility we have and to the artists. Yeah. So maybe I can show you my screen and make you kind of. Sorry, I couldn't share my screen right now. Okay. So anyhow, the artists actually they are from, sometimes they are from the performance background, and on the other hand they are from maybe the visual art background, but we will try to merge them together. Then as I mentioned, in the C-Lab we are trying to play as a hub, cultural hub. So we also really happy to cooperation with the different institution, or we can do the co-production, support the maybe the from the research base or from the first stage. So you can think like it's kind of like starting investment for the cultural value, and during those process, even have because traditional residency program normally, as Indy mentioned, maybe the artists that need to be required like have a exhibition then before they end up their residency. But in C-Lab, actually, we don't really require that. Yeah. So you can, the artists, they can do the necessary, what they want, or even their project, actually, they fail at, then we don't really challenge like the outcome from their research or other things. But we also support some tutor systems. Yeah, we will invite some guests or the advisor, and to accompany with them to working with the artists together. So this is quite different we done in Taiwan, and of course this is any other experience, experimental things we're trying to approach.
Okay, thank you, Dakwen.
Yes.
Next question is for Inti. Is
Oh.
various artists community engaged art center? What programs for the community do you envision? So that's a question for you, Inti.
Yeah, I think whenever I hear this, the term of the community, I also invite people to think that the art community is also a community. And so in our case, because we bring a lot of international artists, and we may fall into the complicated parachuting situation where an artist doesn't have an idea of a context and comes and scans and looks and creates a work with its own distance, sometimes fall into exoticism. Of course, the reason why we take so much time trying to identify the artists is because their practice somehow would have a certain connection with the site that they haven't visited, and to try to avoid those very reduced forms of representing and reading context. But of course, it's not enough. And so to try to work with our art community, what we had been doing over the past years was that every time that the artist would come, we would do a 3-day seminar workshop in Manila. We made an open call through a program that we called Escuela. And the artists would basically be with a group of 10 young artists or young creators or professionals, working on a specific seminar subject or workshop, so that there is this level of at least a minimum of engagement. And we also did these programs, most of them outside of our institution. So we would collaborate with the Vargas Museum at the University of the Philippines, or MCAD, also in Metro Manila, another university that has an art program and a cultural management program. And I think when you are a foundation, or you have the possibility to bring people and have resources, it's also very important not to stay on your own island. So to share knowledge, to share, in this case, we propose that this artist goes to this university or goes to this museum and produce this work. And I think that's a way to to tackle, a way to address issues that are happening in the art community, and artists learn more from those conversations because all of the participants and students will tell them, well, what are the social issues and political pressing issues happening at the time in the Philippines. They will learn more, that the artists would learn more of that from those experiences of the workshops and the seminars. Yeah.
Thank you, Inti. Yeah, thank you. So next question is for Matinji. There will be a gap between communities and artists if the latter fails to show art in local and relevant contexts. How do you respond to pressing social and political issues in the community through your programs?
That's a good. That's a good question. I was just talking about this new workshop that we are installing right now, this social practice workshop, and that is actually we start with that exactly because of this this question. The Rijksacademie is a kind of well-known and big institute with a community of 45 artists can be also quite isolated because it's very, in a way, convenient to be inside and to spend 2 years in a kind of bubble, because it's also a very interesting group of people that you're part of when you're in the Rijksacademie. And I think that's what we don't want anymore. So we want to have a much more porous relation with our environment. That's the reason for setting up this social workshop. But also in programming, for instance, we are also inviting certain guests for seminars or for discussions to raise those topics, and also the artists ask for it. So we work very artist driven, and you see that more and more the arts bubble is not enough for artists. They want to play a role. They want to, and I think also that we in the Rijksacademie, as let's say as management, as staff, we for us it's also not enough anymore to just play a role in national, international art world. It's not enough. Yeah.
True. Thank you very much. Okay, so another question for all of you, and I think Martinji mentioned this in your presentation, but if there is anything that you would like to add. So the question is, what is the possibility of a Visayan artist getting a residency with you? So is there anything you would like to add, Martinji, to your presentation? You showed us the process of application.
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely a place. It would be really great. We never had an artist from the Philippines as a 2 years resident. We had one Philippine artist for 3 months as a guest, Mark Salvatus, and maybe it's also nice to mention that Patrick Flores from Philippines, Professor Patrick Flores, was a guest advisor several times in the Rijksacademie, so he visited. And it would be really nice to have artists from Philippines applying to the Rijksacademie. Would be really great. So there is a place, but you. The selection process is just because of the number of applications is a bit difficult, but I would definitely would like to stimulate interested artists to apply, and also keep an eye on the website. The moment when the deadline for applying is, it will be around October, is announced. We will also set up some kind of online information sessions to to inform candidates better about how to apply, what to think about, what to consider when you're applying. So it's definitely possible. It would be great. So very welcome.
Great to hear that. Thank you. How about you, Dakwen, or CLab?
Okay. I think because for C-Lab, actually, I didn't mention about, our funding actually is 100%, from Taiwanese military. No, sorry, the military of culture. Yeah. So the project actually, it can be, kind of cooperation with the Taiwan artists. So, for example, like Indy just mentioned the Manila Rune, the project by Asa Johnson, and actually, as I know, that's kind of like a co-production with the Taipei Art Festival last year, and I was the audience actually in Taipei, and actually I really love the project, so I want to echo to Indy, and Asa's her body and the way is really strong, and there's a very interesting things for the Manila Rune, because we see the dancer, the performers, they are in Philippines, in Manila, but the technician team was in Singapore, and the sound engineer was in Berlin, but they synchronized in the same time. Yeah. So that's kind of the really interesting way of they do the stream performance online during the pandemic era. So why I'm raising this case, because I think for the Filipino artists or Messiah artists, want to collaboration with the C-Lab, we can find some Taiwan artists to collaboration together. Then yeah, maybe we can discuss this later on, because of course we are open the way to cooperation with any kind of topic and cultural issues.
Okay, thank you, Dakwen. How about for various artist projects, Inti?
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, I mean, I think I can also be honest that on one hand, our business model completely collapsed because of the situation, given that the revenue of the Heritage Hotel was what was injecting a great part of the finances of the foundation. So we are operating quite minimal and basically not applying through grants. Now we're going to have a talk and seminar by Pio Abad, a Filipino London-based artist, that is happening next week through a grant of the British Council. So it's, our scale down was extreme. We still wish, in the future to reignite the possibility of creating residencies, and when that happens, we'll definitely, as we did with Roniel Compra, it had been our interest right from when I started that we worked with artists outside of Manila, because the art scene is, the art conversation and context seems so Manila centric, that we made an open call specifically for non-Manila based artists, and that's how Roniel was selected. And I think sometimes you have to do that. You have to do specific open calls that create visibility to artists that are not part from this more hegemonic spaces. In this case, Manila being so centric to the artistic conversation. So I mean, whenever we can, we're happy. But as everyone, I think Matia doesn't know, but the lockdowns in the Philippines are just so bizarre. Every province is taking its own authoritarian situation. And so we don't, when I meant about, it's not that residencies are finished, but because of the problems of mobility, and in the case of the Philippines, mobility even within islands, it's quite difficult to think of a physical residence. But I really like what Darwin brought up on how you can create an experience even if you are in different continents. And so maybe that's something we're thinking. I was also just to bring up an example of a residency reimagination made by an art space here in Hong Kong. Because I should have said that I was speaking actually from Hong Kong, and I anyway, I feel very humble not knowing of all the situations that all my colleagues are going through in the Philippines. But here in Hong Kong, there's an art space called Videotage, and in Videotage, they decided to do their residency program in AI virtual reality. And so they created a virtual reality world based on the actual physical space where the residencies take place. And their guests, their residents, are avatars. And they put things in virtual space, and they have conversations, and they create, I don't know, it's a whole world that happens in a virtual reality. So I thought that was also an interesting way to to think.
Thank you so much for all the speakers. It's actually time to wrap up these conversations, and I would just like to share what I got from your conversations. I think this great influence of the pandemic has given us all the time to recalibrate and reinvent the practice that we've been continuing. So it's time to reimagine the future forms of artist in residency programs as well. And there's no question this residency program is an essential part of the ecology of global art practice. And I think thinking about this residency, speaking about feeding, right? The mental happiness and also digestive. And it's a way for us to, as Martinji said, to think about beyond the world of art, but it's about humanity and also about the planet. So I think it connects to the question of how can we re-inhabit this planet and how art can be part of that. Okay, so thank you very much for the food for thoughts that you provided to us this morning. Okay, and thank you so much. And I would like to give the floor back to Manny.
Thank you very much for today's session. Thank you, Senor Guerrero, Mr. Wu, and also Martin J. from the Netherlands. I miss the Netherlands. And also taking time, also Martin J, for, it's late. I know it's late there, and you have shared a lot of information as well as information from Taiwan, and also the programs that you're from Belias artists that you're trying to adjust. We are all living in uncertain times, and even in these times, we try to navigate through it by living as a community, recognizing our efforts, even in the past. And I think this is quite important for us to go towards the future. And initiatives like residencies are quite important, as mentioned by Mayumi, about it is involved in the ecology of art initiatives and creativity, and in the art world. And also, I would like to say thank you, Mayumi, for moderating the discussion. And also, I would like to acknowledge the interpreters from the Benilde School of Deaf Education and Applied Studies, Naomi Lacambacal and Tess Buenaventura, You can also see them in the news, like ANC, or sometimes, I'm quite privileged that I see our interpreter also in national news. Actually, they're stars right now. They're quite busy. And thank you very much. I would just like also to invite our viewers for the next session that we have on March 27. It will be featuring 3 different islands in the Visayas. No, we want to showcase their island art initiatives at the moment. Some have exhibitions, some have workshops, even in these times. No, so we'll be featuring initiatives from Cebu, Bantayan Island, and Bohol. And then we will have a talk presentation also from Dr. Patrick Flores with artists Charles Buen Consejo, Joar Songkuya, Joshua Serafin, Lani Maestro, Leo Abaya, and Ryan Bernardino as part of their Kalibutan seminar, which is part of the process of our exhibition component in Viva XCon. Artists explore intimacies and communities of practice. Then we will launch a local video produced by Martin Miravalles. And we also cater to different exhibitions. At the moment, we have a fundraising exhibition entitled Ogyon in Orange Project. And then there are other exhibitions like in Iloilo. So slowly, I think we are trying to navigate through this lockdown. The virus cannot stop our minds to be creative in producing all of these events. And I think what's important right now is to get to see each other and learn from people living in these times. That's the only way, and identify the community and help each other. So thank you very much for today's discussion. Good night, Martin J.
Thank you.
Have a pleasant day, Inti. And Wu and Mayumi, thank you very much for moderating this today's discussion. I hope to see you in the future once the borders are open. Thank you very much, and
Thank you.
have a good
Thank
day.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey! Ang mga uwak gahulat sang akon kamatayon, dion na nga bag-uhon ang banas sang panglakaton. Numanang madangtan sa pinili kong dalan, kabay nga hindi pa ulihi ang tanan. Di nang mga sinya sa cross nga alagyan, ang talagog talang-talang, nagtalang-talang, gatalang-talang, dapa-dapanaga padayon sa panglakaton. Uy, iining mga bugat nga dalalon sa imo paminsaron kag balat tiyagon. Uy, iining mga bugat nga dalalon, nga dalalon, nga dalalon. Dali na kay maimo ta sang bag-o nga kalibutan. Ako namigo gugma ang hari sa duta ray ng kalibayan. Ako Yeah, pa 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 pa. Yeah. Alright. Feeling the blue. Yeah. Mga abyan ko sa ining tinion, ipabutyag sa katawhan ang imong nga nabalan, ang kaalam ngaging bungkal sa kadutaan, ipalaplag mo sa hangin ang unod sining sugilanon, para mga tubang hangkat sang henerasyon, tanga mga katawhan nagtuhaw sa kadutaan, ibalik ta ang balanse sang kalibutan, mahimo ta sang bag-o nga alagyan, padulong sa promisa nga kadutaan. Ako lamigo, tugma ang hari sa duta, ray ng kalipayan. Ako niya abiyon, magiliusa sa kausa sang kahilwayan. Ang paghidait yara sa imo, kag yara man sa amon.